Early financial projections for the next Grand Theft Auto release do not mirror a software launch. They map to the gross domestic product of a small nation. Retailers, hardware manufacturers, and global supply chains are currently adjusting their quarterly expectations around a single piece of interactive media. There was a time when a major release meant a line wrapped around a suburban strip mall at midnight. That physical, localized enthusiasm is a relic. Now the anticipation is decentralized, dominating online ecosystems and algorithmic trends globally for months before a single copy is even available for purchase. To find a comparable mobilization of capital and public attention, you have to look at the heaviest hitters in traditional cinema. Yet even a $200 million summer tentpole film comes and goes in a matter of weeks. The financial footprint of this property operates on an entirely different scale of upfront cost and multi-year longevity. The property has grown so massive that competing studios actively clear their release calendars to avoid its shadow. By simply existing, it dictates the rhythm of the broader entertainment market. This immense gravity stems from a specific historical track record. In the early 2000s, this series solved the architectural problems of translating a sandbox experience into a functional three-dimensional space. With each subsequent title, the cultural footprint multiplied. The fifth installment saturated the dedicated console market, then reached into the mainstream consciousness to remain on global sales charts for over a decade. Then came their Western epic. The studio poured years of development into granular, obsessive details, simulating mud accumulation on horse hooves, dynamic facial hair growth, and physics systems that treated every object in the environment as a tangible item with distinct weight. Delivering consistent technical marvels creates an incredibly dangerous standard. The studio has built a reputation where anything less than complete reinvention is heavily scrutinized. They are now tasked with vaulting a bar they themselves placed out of reach. Inside these walls, teams have operated under a veil of total silence for years. Hundreds of engineers, writers, and designers have been bound by strict non-disclosure agreements, entirely insulated from the public hype. The engineering requirements for their new Leonida engine are staggering. Simulating a digital state requires rendering individual pedestrians with autonomous routines, allowing hundreds of distinct AI entities to navigate dense, brightly lit intersections without repeating animations or clipping through geometry. The technical overhead aligns with a functional physics simulator, requiring systems that account for friction, wind resistance, and fluid dynamics across every inch of the map to make the environment feel like an active simulation. When you look at the sheer density of those technical demands, the decade-long development cycle makes perfect sense. Engineering a responsive, living digital state from scratch simply takes thousands of human lifetimes. But that level of output extracts a heavy toll. Reports of extreme overtime and exhausting production cycles forced a systemic restructuring of how the studio treats its workforce, adding complex management challenges to an already immense workload. Then the fortress cracked. In 2022, a massive cache of highly guarded, early-build development footage bypassed internal security and spilled onto public forums. The intrusion exposed a critical vulnerability in their remote infrastructure. Rebuilding the compromised systems cost the company $5 million, but the breach included fragments of the underlying architecture. If the complete source code were distributed, bad actors could reverse engineer the application. For a studio known for its absolute control over public messaging, the event was a severe reality check. It exposed the fragile human element attempting to manage a digital undertaking of this size. While the studio focused on recovery and internal security, the community stepped in to fill the silence. The player base simply refused to let the active property fade. Programmers and hobbyists hijacked the old engine to build massive roleplay servers. They wrote custom code, organized virtual economies, built entirely different multiplayer experiences inside the existing architecture. Content creators mapped out unreleased geography based on the leaked coordinates. Speedrunners broke down every line of code to optimize their times, treating the software as an academic subject. By actively dismantling and rebuilding the decade-old software, the audience sustained the brand's momentum during the years of official silence. They bridged the gap between major releases, keeping the property at the center of the conversation long before the first official trailer arrived. We have a flawless historical track record, a highly publicized security disaster, and an audience that has spent 10 years hyping themselves into a frenzy. It poses a serious logistical question. Is it actually possible for a piece of code to meet this level of expectation? The developers in those offices are operating under a crushing atmospheric pressure. Every mechanic they code and every line of dialogue they record will be scrutinized by tens of millions of users actively searching for flaws. The outcome of this launch will ripple through the tech sector. Publishers are watching closely to see if a single property can still command this much capital, and whether the ceiling for interactive development budgets needs to be recalibrated. The launch serves as a multi-billion-dollar stress test on the limits of digital engineering and demand. When those servers finally go live, the industry will see the actual ceiling for global media in the modern era.